Welcome to My Money Mindset podcast, where we explore how a healthy mindset is the foundation for financial success. Each week, we delve into mindset hacks and practical strategies to help you enhance your income, help you make more appropriate investments for yourself, and to improve your overall financial well-being. Join us on this journey to transform your financial future by transforming your mindset. Please note that the information provided on this podcast is for general information purposes only and does not constitute as personal, financial or health advice. It has been prepared without considering your individual objectives, financial situation or life needs. Before making any financial or health decisions, you should consult with a qualified professional or financial advisor to ensure the information aligns with your specific circumstances. So let's begin and enjoy this journey as each episode teaches us on how to improve our overall mindset that it overall improves our financial success. I'm going to talk about property flipping today, as in buy a property, flip it after renovating it, and obviously for a profit. Now, most of you have probably seen all these shows on TV that could be worldwide, right? So we're getting from the States, we're getting from all Canada, UK. Most of the time in Australia, not that I've seen a lot of property shows in Australia that are demonstrating, property flips. Now, the other thing is, if you are seeing them, a lot of the time, as what most TV shows are, they glorify a lot of the stuff, they dramatize it, and it's a little bit something that you'd want to sort of, speculate upon and not base your real life events around that. So what I'm basically saying is, don't watch a show or two or three or 10 and then start to think, well, we could do this for the similar results. Now, when I say the operative word there is similar results, we all see that some people make some or a lot of money and some lose money. But in the end, it all comes down to the individual property and the individual investors and the way they delegate and perform in the actual renovation or the flip. So in other words, there are a lot of factors here to decide upon and to factor into what they call a feasibility report. Feasibility report is just a term that describes the figures that are required in when you're handling the property and all the costs involved with that property, then all the costs involved with the renovations, and all the costs involved as in legal fees, stamp duties, obviously government fees and all the fees that are associated. So basically what you're doing is you're saying, well, I'm buying a property for X amount, call it $1 million in round figures, and I'm adding stamp duty there of roughly 60, 80 grand, depending on what state you're in. Then there's a few other legal fees, obviously conveyancer or solicitor fees and all that type of stuff. And that would come up to roughly, let's call it in round figures, $1,080,000. That's the funds required. But then you say, look, if I pour at least 100,000, and this is where in your feasibility report you'd want to start adding in all these costs. So you would then start to add, let's say we're going to do 100,000 worth of renovations or 200, whatever that figure is. And within that figure, you break that figure down as in bathrooms, kitchen, etc., by room. So it's very easy for you to relay back in the future. And it'll help you with quotations when getting individual quotations. So for instance, out of that 100,000 renovation, you may find that when you micro detail it, as in the kitchen's going to cost you 20, 30 grand, bathrooms 10, 15, 20 grand, etc., and you justify all those other smaller quantifiable figures, as in how does that look? Where did you get the figure for 20, 30 grand for the kitchen? Yeah. So you got to break that down. So these are the real bits of homework that you need to do for every property. Now it sounds laborious, but most of the time a good property developer or flipper will then most of the time develop an Excel spreadsheet. There's a lot of Excel spreadsheets and stuff you can download. Just make sure that they are really indicative to the area or region that you're in. But make sure that all the costings are put in there. And basically that feasibility report, going back to that, will have all these costings in there. And at the end of the day, the bottom line of this should hopefully be a profit. Now you say, well, okay, I'm spending 100,000. I'm actually purchasing for 100 plus stamps, plus this, plus that, and in the end, it could be, the costs could add up to 200,000. As an example, obviously, this project is going to cost you 1.2 thousand before you even put it on the market. Then you've got agent fees to consider on the resale and everything like that. Now, before we get to the agent fees and all that type of stuff and the other fees associated with marketing and everything, your property once you completed it, is to actually make sure that you sort of so you've got that 1.2 as in this indicative figure, just using this example, 1.2, and you look on the market and you look at your comparable sales. Now, most of the time, I would always advise to actually look on at least five different platforms of property sales. So I know there's a lot more than that that's on the net. So you'd get the five of them and you'd sort of get an average. So basically, if this in this example that we've been using for this episode is to say, right, it's costing us 1.2. We've actually seen similar apartments or properties that are very similar in number of bedrooms, number of bathrooms, location, just around the corner, could be down the road, in the suburb. Some suburbs have, like, I've known some massive suburbs that change, and it's still within the same postcode. You could have a five-bedroom home and a five-bedroom home 2 kilometres down the road, and it's in a bad pocket that's 30% less in sales. So make sure you do all your due diligence there, and identify what the comparable sales in the area at that time or when you think you'd have yours on the market. And I'd also recommend to speak to at least three or more real estate agents or reputable agents that you can do, and there's a lot of information on the web once again to see the agents and get familiar with them, and they sort of become your best friends in this because they're the ones that are voicing what they think your property will be worth. And a great agent, if you really meet a great agent, they actually put their due diligence into your project, just like a broker. They put all their efforts into making sure that you end up with a profit. So if we're going to be having a look, and it's going to cost us 200,000 in round figures to fix up this $1 million property in the same region. We see something that's selling for 1.4. Indicatively, we see, okay, 1.4, that means $200,000 profit in round terms. You've got to factor in your capital gains tax. Your accountant can help you with that. You factor in your sales agents fees, marketing costs and everything. And then you have a look at that, and that's your profit to rinse and repeat. Now, the important thing here, just like anything in life, is time. Time is really, so if this project takes you 1 year to complete, well, realistically, you can do the sums. You could be making over $100,000 in income there after expenses, etc. But if this was to take you 2 years or 3 years, then you've got to sort of divide that $100,000 profit into three, if it's 3 years, or two. So you can see that time is really of essence. Now, you've got to also factor in that time enables the market to shift. So what I'm saying is, the longer that your property is on the market, God bless if the values are going up in time. But a problem is, recently we've seen the values actually going down in time. So the longer you keep it, the less value that property is worth. So you really get, it's just it's another cost to your business in all this being said. So something to point out, time is massive. And that is also something that I'll be placing on your feasibility report. Flipping properties is actually quite fun, but I don't think that it's not a lot of work. Just from the last 5-10 minutes of this episode, you've seen that I've only just covered very slightly, just micro details that's involved when it comes to actually and profit is probably what you want to be looking at. Yeah, a lot of the time, many people go into flipping properties simply because they love property. And property is, people that actually fall in love with property and making money out of it, it can be rather addictive in a sense to say, there's so many characteristics of property. There's so many different things, and there's your artistic the bits that you could throw into it. Yeah, it really is, requires all sorts of intrinsic parts of the brain to be flicking. So your creativity side along with your logical and methical side and so on and so forth, right? So it is a very addictive thing and it can be fun, but it does require a lot of homework and pretty much believing in yourself. So it doesn't mean that, even if the numbers stack up and you're sort of still a little bit hesitant with the market or whatever, you definitely want to speak to some professionals there by reading the market. Here you are reading the newspaper that's full of doom and gloom. You're really probably going to maybe have a connotation to say, look, I better hold off. Speak to, all the professionals that you can think of that would be able to give you indicative idea of where the market's going, the performances, everything like that, and the list can be massive. And that's why I say any property flipper or renovator or even just buying land and putting kit homes on there and stuff, you need to do your due diligence and have a great team behind you. So when it does come to that point where you think, okay, we're ready to rock and roll here, we're actually ready to start looking, we need to put ourselves in line with a finance broker or a bank or whatever, a professional, reach out to someone that's actually going to get involved with it. There's nothing worse than having a team, pretty much using the sports analogy. You've got a whole team of 10 players and it only takes one player to ruin the game. So you want to make sure that all your team players, your finance brokers, your real estate agents, your solicitors, uh, financial planners, so on and so forth, interior designers, your tradespeople, whatever it might be. And, you really need to govern each one as a team player in the appropriate time. So for instance, when you start to look at what your affordability, you definitely want to get your accountant and finance broker on board. They will start to work in with you and find the passion with you. That's where the difficult part can sometimes be, because a lot of the time you may find professionals in the industry of finance not really, getting too much involved into the characteristics of the renovation side of thing, although some are some really great professionals out there and can help you immensely. So it's just a matter of finding the right one. And, often friends and family always have someone that they would use or recommend because they're familiar with them. That's always a good way to start the whole journey off with. Then you want to sort of coordinate and then, get in touch with obviously after the accountant, a good solicitor that can actually prepare Section 32s and contracts of sale. Here in Victoria, you call Section 32s and stuff like that. But other states and countries utilise different. But you definitely want to make sure you're legal. What you're buying, always make sure that they check the contracts of sale, as in the solicitors and stuff. Keep everything very transparent with your team professionals. Make sure that they cover everything. And now, once you've got the team sort of set up and everyone's rocking and rolling, you start to look for some properties, and you're not so successful at auctions or whatever. Really make sure that what you've done, your due diligence with your with the purchase price. A lot of the time, most professionals in the industry say it's not what you sell a property for that makes the profit, it's what you actually buy it for. And what they mean by that is not overpaying. Really make sure that you draw a line in the sand when it comes to purchasing this property. Don't get overly invested in it by passion and sort of saying, well, look, I was going to buy it for 1 million and now it's 1.1, or I'll make it even an even better property, and so on and so forth. This all goes back to your feasibility and your due diligence, your market research, your property research, making sure that all the numbers stack up and sticking to that number. Most important thing is sticking to the numbers. you know, you may have a lot of fun flipping properties or doing them up, keeping them and renting them and so on. And it is great fun, but it's not fun when you're not making a profit, because it's the profit that sustains your business. And in the end, every business, whether it's property or fish and chips, whatever, it needs to be profitable. And that is where I say it comes down to the micro details of making sure that you really draw a line in the sand with your purchase price, because you've done all your reports, you've done all your financial assessments and analysis, and stick to that. Don't overdo it. And that also includes the renovations. Don't say, look, I've allowed 30 grand for doing the kitchen, and the bathrooms is a 20 and sort of, but then that starts to blow out, and obviously so too it eats into your profit. Always make sure that on your feasibility you got what they call a contingency, as in what that basically means. In percentage, it means the contingency is like a buffer. So for instance, if your kitchen is a little bit over, and then your bathroom's a little bit over, but then your flooring might be a little bit under, etc., make sure contingencies. Now, I'm pretty tough with contingencies. Some builders like to say 12%. I like 5% contingency, because I just think I really don't want to leave a lot of room for error there. And what 5% of the contingency means is 5% of the costs to do the renovation, right? So renovation, 100 grand, I'm allowing 5 grand discrepancy, meaning it could go to 105,000, right? When you add up all the costs, either the blowouts or you haven't spent enough to add up to that 100,000. If it ends up as 98, even better for your profit, because you're 2 grand in front. But if it ends up at 105, which I'm allowed, so be it. That's fine. I've allowed that for the figures. Now, that's an important part, is the contingency fee. Making sure that when you then once again go to sell it, and let's say, for instance, in a downturning market, and you kept the property too long, or it's just that you've been unfortunate, and you find that instead of 200,000 that you're going to make, or 100,000 that you're going to make, the property's gone down in value. What do? Do you hold it? That's where you need your team back on board. When the problems start, this is when your team members got to shine. You start discussing all the potentials. Do we keep it, rent it? What do we do? Do we cut our losses? All that great, a lot of the time your financial experts will be able to help with that. Reading the market, and then, but as a business operator or property owner, business operator, you want to make sure that you do, you saved enough for a rainy day if this does happen. If it doesn't, because a good property flipper will always make sure that they make a bit of money out of it. They're not going to make 100 grand, but they're making 80,000. They might cut their losses and move on to the next one, depending on how your finances have been organised. So that's also another factor when it comes to flipping properties. Now, I think I've covered most aspects of flipping property. I mean, I could go on for hours about what is required for flipping property. But those of you who know me quite well will know that before everything is said and done with the facts, figures, and all that, you really got to identify that flipping properties, like I said a little bit earlier, it's not easy. Now, it's great work. It requires a lot of different types of work, a little bit of admin, a little bit of elbow grease, etc., etc. And it requires you to sort of be really on the ball. Now, it can add a lot of pressure to your lives. Now, what I mean by that is a normal family that, working 9 to 5 or operate businesses, already working 8 hours a day, and sometimes flipping property in order to get ahead in life requires a little bit more pressure in life. And this is the one thing that I see a lot of the time, taxing people's personality and their moods. They run out of time, especially if they want to spend time with the kids and more family time. Really think about before proceeding into property flipping, because it can be detrimental to your family life. It can be really good when you're making a profit and moving forward. So you really got to make the call and make sure that you ask yourself, you have an open mind. Am I able to do this? Am I able to actually get on and move forward in life? And the important thing here, guys, is I'm not saying, look, if you really think that you're not going to have time, or you won't be able to do it, so you don't go ahead with it. What I'd suggest is really break it down once again and then start to maybe converse with your partners or family members or friends or people that know you really well, not just in the finance and figure side of things, but people that know you well and can help you with sort of making attributes in your life that would favor you to move forward. And what I mean by that is sort of identifying the key areas that would need a bit of improvement. So, for instance, if you're saying, "Look, I get out of bed at 8 o'clock in the morning, and then I'm at work by 9," you probably want to say, "Well, I can wake up an hour earlier, go to work earlier, and then accomplish my day sooner, and then move to the renovation," or however you want. There's so many ways to sort of to approach this. But what I'm saying is, your headspace has to be the most important thing, because your headspace, if it's in a great space, it's actually going to end up a great project and life will become great. But if your headspace is in a busy, congested, pressure, a lot going on, little time to focus and a lot of time to make mistakes, the project may be a mistake, life may be a mistake, and it sort of results in your figures at the end of the day. And mistakes lead to larger mistakes, meaning that your finances are impacted, and so too is your family life. So it requires you to take in a real good analysis of your headspace and be, like I always say, be honest with yourself. Your headspace has to be really, 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 really knowing what to do next that's going to favor you and the people around you, because it's your success and your levels of success that are going to reflect and build the energy of the continuing success of your life. So if the bigger successes you have, or happiness that you create through what you're doing and you're enjoying what you do and you're flipping properties and looking remarkable, and you're able to share your properties with future families to enjoy what you've created, which is some of the most special parts of flipping property, is making something that a beautiful family will move in and enjoy forever. That is awesome. They're the rewards, but you've got to make sure that you're in the headspace to be able to deliver that and deliver a really good product. So be in a really good place in your mind. I hope this helps. And like always, message me if you want me to have a look and see what there is that I could possibly provide to this episode that you think I've missed or anything like that. And happy to help, guys.